out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the little situation that the Colts had. So earlier in not actually earlier, a few weeks ago, I should say, the Colts, they decided to bench Anthony Richardson for some reason. A lot of people think it was because Anthony Richardson just gave up mid-game. And, I mean, obviously, that's not an attitude that you want for your quarterback. And I totally understand that, but I just don't understand why they would rather, start Joe Flacco as opposed to somebody like Anthony Richardson. Because, I mean, this is a guy who the Colts ended up using their high draft pick on. And he's not going to get any better he's not going to get any better unless you, actually play him. And he's one of those quarterbacks that's, sort of getting, a Josh Allen treatment. Because when Josh Allen was first drafted, nobody really expected him to be this good. People just knew that he was going to be super athletic, and whether or not he'd be accurate or whether or not he'd be good enough was still in question. So it's more of it was an experimental thing for the Bills in drafting Josh Allen. And this is sort of the same thing with Anthony Richardson. From what I've seen from Anthony Richardson, he messes up really, really easy passes, but he also makes some really, really good deep passes and some difficult passes as well. So it's it's more like a flip of a coin. You have no idea exactly what kind of game you're going to get from Anthony Richardson, and that is a problem at quarterback. Inconsistencies. That's also something that really plagued Josh Allen before this season, where everybody knew that Josh Allen was rather turnover prone. He would make some really difficult passes, but then would also mess up those difficult passes and whatnot. And I totally understand that, but deciding to bench Anthony Richardson mainly because of the fact that he gave up in mid-game, I can somewhat see that, but I also don't. Because, again, you have to give somebody like Anthony Richardson more chances to play. You have to give him the experience. He's not going to learn how to throw accurately if he's sitting on the bench. And like I said before, this is a high draft pick that they ended up using on him. So they might as well see what they can get out of him. And benching him, that's not really an ideal thing to do, at least in my opinion. Now, this is his second year, so not really expecting him. The expectations of him being good aren't really all that high because, again, it takes time for some players to develop, unless you're like C.J. Stroud or Jaden Daniels, who just on the spot immediately one of the top quarterbacks in the league. It's ridiculous. I'm so jealous, but the Colts, they decided to bench Joe Flacco after he started the last two games, and guess what? The Colts lost both of those games. So yeah, he took the starting job in Week 9, and then the Colts went 0-2. So that was a great job by the Colts right there. In the two recent losses, Joe Flacco threw for 451 yards, which isn't bad. It's all right, considering how he's super old. 2 touchdowns, but he also was very generous and gave the other team the ball, 4 times. So yeah, he threw 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So that is really, really bad. Richardson led the team to a 3-3 record, completing 44% of his passes, which is awful. And he was passing for 958 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions before being benched for Flacco. So the quarterback situation is not really that ideal in Indiana right now, but still, it's not going to get any better if you have Richardson coming off the bench. It's just not happening. And around the NFL, there's probably going to be more Colts QB change shortly. We're not entirely sure, if Anthony Richardson is going to stay as the quarterback for long. It really depends on whether or not the Colts win this next coming week in Week 11. And so they play the Jets. So this should be an easy win for the Colts, just based off of how miserable the Jets have been and how bad they've been. I'll go further into the Jets, in the next segment. But this was sort of news that broke. I want to say I found out about this 5 minutes before the show, more or less, and I really shouldn't even be talking about this because the way I see it, Anthony Richardson should never have been benched from the start. He genuinely should not have, because I understand, Joe Flacco, he's got that legacy Super Bowl run that sort of defined his career. and all of the excuse me. And he did have a pretty solid, appearance. I mean, he was able to lead the Browns over to the postseason, something that nobody really expected him to. But again, the way that he's been playing in these last few weeks is just not ideal. I mean, they lost to the Bills 30-20 last week. Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions, but Joe Flacco was so generous he decided to throw more interceptions than Josh Allen, which, is never a good sign. And it's not like he was any better in week 9 either. I mean, they played the Vikings, and he went up against another quarterback that loves to throw interceptions, and Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold threw 2 interceptions, and from Joe Flacco's perspective, he only threw 1, but he was also only able to throw 179 yards. So again, just not ideal. Not an ideal performance coming in from quarterback. And a lot of it has to do with Joe Flacco's lack of mobility. I mean, every time I see Joe Flacco, it's really like, if you don't have a clean pocket with Joe Flacco, like, you're not going to get anything done. And it makes total sense because Joe Flacco is so old. I mean, like, geez, I don't even know how old he is, but he is an old man. And it's amazing that he's still even in the league, I will say that. But, you're not going to win with this kind of quarterback. Not anymore. It's unfortunate, but that's how it works. So you need a mobile quarterback, especially with the Colts and their offensive line. You definitely do need a mobile quarterback. And against the Jets, you're probably also going to need a mobile quarterback because the Jets pass rush it's one of the very few solid things going on with the Jets and their organization right now. And who knows, maybe Anthony Richardson is probably going to be, maybe he learned from his mistake, and maybe he learned not to quit on his team, in air quotes, because a lot of people, they say that he quit on his team, but the reality seemed like he was out of a lot of stamina. Because there was this one play where he ran a lot, and he was completely gassed. And so he could not play another snap, apparently. That's what I remembered of that week. And I totally understand the vision. You don't want a quarterback that's just going to quit on you mid-game. But at the same time, you want a quarterback that has some sort of potential. Now, I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson has been playing very good, but that completion percentage speaks for itself. But, you have to give this man some reps. Like, that's just got to happen. How do I say this? The Patriots, they did the same thing with Drake May, right? They just let Jacoby Brissett be the starting quarterback for however long he was the starting quarterback, and he was never throwing more than 200 yards, and I'm here sitting like, okay, when are the Pats going to actually start Drake May? I understand with the thought process of not wanting to get him hurt, but at this point, you really don't have anything left to lose. So just see if he's any good, see if he knows how to play football, see if he can actually make the games competitive. And lo and behold, he's been able to do that. He's been able to make these games competitive. Albeit he does throw up a couple of stinker interceptions, but I don't expect a lot from a rookie. Like, that is a common mistake that most rookies make unless you're Jaden Daniels or something like that. So that's all that I really have to say about this segment. Again, I personally think that Anthony Richardson should have been the starter, without a doubt. Like, there should never have been any sort of debate in even having Joe Flacco be in the starting position, and he should have continued to be the starter regardless of whether or not he was tired, regardless of all this randomness, because you need that for the future. So that's all that I have to say in regards to this first segment. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into the second segment, where I talk about the New York Jets, specifically, like their season and also the previous game that they played against the Cardinals. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the